For me, it's obviously a chase film. I mean, it's one long action sequence, one long amazing action sequence, or a series of them, I guess. But it's a chase, and it's a chase for immortality. Nux is looking for immortality. It's a chase for love in a certain way. It's a chase for freedom. It's a chase for a better world. It's all those things, and it's not just simply one person chasing them. They're chasing ideas. They're chasing thoughts. They're chasing. What could be.
That's great you say that. It's true, actually. And, in a sense, we're all on our own Fury Road, the individual collectively. That's great. They are. They're chasing for all those things. Mm-hmm. But you see that there's a sense of repetition of human history. Interestingly enough, this was written in 1999, and the Nux character and the War Boys chasing immortality through glorious death in battle were based more on the kamikaze, dying gloriously in battle,
right.
and ascending to some warrior paradise, and not so much with contemporary jihadist things like that. And if you look at history, it's always been thus in one way or the other. And in fact, the War Boys call themselves Kamikaze. I don't know if you picked that up. Did you pick that up?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
I couldn't hear the word very clearly. I just wonder whether people pick it up.
Yeah, I think they will. I was making notes all the way through it, I wrote it down, I wrote down Kamikaze.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. In my notes, which is pretty cool.
So can you write?
Well, I don't think I've got my notebook with no, I don't have a notebook with me. Yeah. But I've learned how to write in the dark. Because I hate those people that bring in lights and and so I've learned how to write in the dark, but I have to transcribe those notes right away because it will, like 2 days from then, that I'll look at that scroll that says "common crazy" and I won't know what it is, right? But it's in my head. Yeah. Well, I have this idea about reviewing movies. You either write the review in 24 hours or you wait 24 years. So you go with your gut, or you go with your give it some time to marinate.
Wow, how interesting!
Yeah,
because I don't know what the movie is until after time has gone by.
Well, do you get anything out of this process? I mean, you've got a really jam-packed schedule today. I assume you did it in another city yesterday, and before that, and before and probably a couple of weeks of it to come up. Do you discover things about the movie talking to the press?
Hugely.
Yeah.
If particularly if it's like this, I mean, I'm very tired now because I'm an Australian Times.
You are.
But I'm getting a huge amount of it. You just told me stuff I never knew, and it's in that process that you learn about the movie. Right. I mean, you just said things about the movie that have given me insights into what we've just done. I mean, you do it in a kind of a frenzy that's out of your instinct more than it is out of careful consideration. Right. You don't really have that time, and now you're starting to get to know what it is. And for me, I always had that. The way I sort of measure a movie is based on how long it follows me out of the cinema.
Right.
If I forgot it by the time I'm in the car park, it doesn't mean much. But some movies, one seen and unforgotten, and you try to make movies that fit into that category.
Well, I was telling you earlier today that I remember every theater that I saw a Mad Max
that
movie.
That blew me away.
Yeah,
and because without going to think, I remember one day where I was absolutely convinced that I had to try to make movies, and that's one day where I saw Robert Altman's MASH for the first time. I remember exactly the moment. It's the only, and it was the first time in my life when I went straight back into the cinema, came out again. I could picture the cinema, I could picture the poster, and then I walked down the street in a kind of daze, and I had to see another movie, and it happened to be Battle for Algiers.
Oh, wow.
So could you imagine those two movies on one day? And I remember the theatre, I remember the day, a long time ago now.
Well, you were a doctor then, right?
Yeah, I was a medical.
Yeah, or
But back then, when that happened, I was just close to my final year in medicine.
yeah.
But I worked for 2.5 years in a big city hospital, and then I stayed registered right up past Mad Max 2 Road Warrior.
Really?
Yeah.
Just in case it all fell apart or something? Or?
Well, I never even thought there would be a career, and
Right.
I always was still interested in medicine. I went through medical school with my twin brother,
Yeah.
and I stayed a doctor on the first Mad Max because we kept running out of money in post production. So we were working, and it took it over a year to cut that film,
Yeah.
and then I stayed through to the second Mad Max because if you're doing stunts, you had to have you're obliged to have a doctor on set. So they weren't big budgets, and I thought I could do that. And then I ended up running a clinic during lunchtime, and with cuts and sunburn and stuff like
Scrapes
that,
and all
scrapes
that.
and things. And then as time went on, I realised from my twin brother that I kept losing the knowledge and not keeping up with it, and then and you can't do both.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think I see a line, though, between your former career and the movies. I see in the film, or maybe an interest in anatomy, certainly.
Mm.
Furiosa has one arm. There are people who are deformed in the movie. There's all sorts of interesting physiology in the film, and I was wondering when I was watching it, having known that you were a doctor, if that is something that is a straight line.
I'm very, very much aware of it. I mean, of that, you want something to be authentic.
Yeah.
You want to feel as though it's really there. So, but people would ask, well, I don't think I'd be the filmmaker I am unless I had that medical education. And in a very direct way, in two very direct ways. One, both of them have a lot of problem solving in that. Yeah. But the most important one is that as a doctor, you're looking at people in extremis from many points of view.
Right.
So you might look at, as an epidemiologist, at the broader issues. I've been assisting as a junior doctor in neurosurgery, where you're touching the brain of someone you've just had a conversation with probably 2 or 3 hours before. You look inside of people. You see people during birth, childbirth, and death, and and so on. So you're shifting, and through microscopes, through
a lens,
and so you're looking through many points of view. It's exactly what you do in cinema.
Yeah.
You big, huge, long, wide shots, massive crowds, or you're looking right down into someone's, brain, in someone's head. Even in this movie, you kind of get inside Max's head. He has a sudden dream. He wakes up, and you see things like that. So that's only recently an awareness that I have. But and so there's that's fascination with who we are, which I think all storytellers or every human being is interested in. But I was privileged with a unique point of view being a doctor.
Well, this film, for me, we just had so much fun. Like, first off, we just had so much fun at it. That's just, I mean, it's just so much fun. But the thing, in retrospect, thinking about it, it is an action scene. It's a long action one, just with the relentless pedal to the metal. Loved all that, but there's no loss of character. You learn what you need to know about these characters early on. You learn about Nux and with his "I live, I die, I live again." All those, like, there's not a huge amount of dialogue, and there's very little, as far as I can remember, very little exposition. But in each line seems perfectly chosen or carefully chosen to tell us what we need to know to make us understand the character.
That's what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Bernard Herrmann had that wonderful saying that cinema is a mosaic art,
right.
and it's all the bits and pieces and how you do it, as is music,
yeah.
and that causal relationship, one shot to the next, just like one note has to fit to the next. So cumulatively, you get an experience. You hope to give an audience an experience. Is exactly what you try, and that's one of the difficulties in the editing of when to give that information. When do people need to know certain things? We don't keep notes, and you might, but most people don't keep notes during a movie,
right.
And so I better remember that. When you give information, you've got to make sure it comes at a moment when it has some sort of emotional or experiential meaning to the audience.
Well, I think so, and this film. Last week I was pretty rough on the Avengers movie because it's all action again, but I didn't care about the action, and I didn't really particularly care about the characters in a lot of ways. And for me, though, the difference here is that there's a lot of peaks. And there are just enough little valleys all the way along, so that even though I describe it as one long action chase thing, it doesn't feel like it. Well, it feels like it, but it feels like you're still getting sort of emotionally satisfied along the way.
Oh, good.
As well as not just having your eyeballs dance.
Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so happy you say that. I mean, it's that old thing that character is action. So you better learn something from every. When Max and Furiosa meet, it could have been a conversation, except they're two warriors whose survival depends on one killing the other. At least Furiosa wants to kill her. Yeah. Max doesn't have to kill her; he just has to get the sentence and get past her.
The names in the movie, and for all of the movies, have always kind of blown my mind. But I think Imperator Furiosa is possibly the greatest character name of a character, certainly this year, maybe for the last few. Where do they come from?
Well, like all the cars and all the objects and every bit of costume, they're found objects, repurposed. So Furiosa, you want to describe the character, it's Furio. Imperator is the old Roman term, so you mix that together. Nux at one time, I can't quite hear it very well, but instead of saying I should be feasting with the immortal, with the hero, he says McFeasting, which is a corruption of this. He talks about shiny and chrome because there's a kind of almost a semi-religious quality to vehicles and steering wheels and anything that survived the apocalypse and gets repurposed. Older, more robust technology, simpler technology. There's no microprocessors and computers in the cars. There's no crumple technology. They're all stiff-bodied, and so they're muscle cars and rat rods and so on and so on. We're going back all the way to the 30s because they're easy to fix. And therefore they talk about shiny and chrome as being perfect. He has the thing, even the makeup, he's got an engine sort of scarified into his body. So all of that, everything is found objects repurposed. They even use the word Valhalla because it's a Scandinavian Viking warrior paradise. But they talk about riding eternal on the highways of Valhalla. So it's found objects repurposed. That's where the language comes in, and that's a fun thing to do.